a threat. And one of the things that can't be attacked is your self-custody Bitcoin. And one of the things that can be attacked is the ETF. You can't be exposed to that. That's my view. It's not a good idea. And by the way, that'll hit MSTR too. It'll probably hit other stuff as well. Friends and enemies, welcome back. Canadian Bitcoiners podcast.
Friends and enemies, welcome to the CBP. Want to be better informed? Listen to Len and Joey. Sponsors taken care of right off the top. Bull Bitcoin and easy DNS. The media is feeding the slop. It doesn't matter what topics discussed. Quality entertainment and information you can trust.
That's being planned or at least discussed. You know, we're not going to allow people to buy
entertainment and information you can trust. Send the guy some value, boost them with some stats. Bitcoin is a scarcity asset. I mean, it's just a fact. Geopolitical, national, down to the local clown.
Friends and enemies, welcome back to the Canadian Bitcoiners podcast. Tonight on the show, Len and I talking BIP-110. We're talking Eric Adams rug pulls, and we're talking the usual notable Canadian news stories. As always, glad to see you guys here. Thanks for coming. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Make sure you send a like, a subscribe, a share, whatever. Tell your priest, tell your mechanic. We got lots to discuss tonight and in the future as well. Len, what's going on, buddy? Great to see you. Looking good over there.
I'm ready for golf.
Are you? Okay.
I'm waiting. I'm dying to play. Yeah, I'm just waiting for the weather to turn. Whatever.
Well, you ain't going to get it this week. I think I just looked at my phone earlier today, and it's supposed to be minus 23 on Monday next week.
Yeah, it's going to be
nasty.
Cold.
That's nasty work. Let's get into the show. Sponsors is always up front. Easy DNS, best place for you to host your content. Buy a domain name. Mark is your friendly neighborhood registrar, as you guys know. I saw Mark today. We had a nice burger lunch. The best thing about Easy DNS is not that they take Bitcoin. That's great. Not that you can do virtual private server stuff there if you're a Bitcoin enthusiast, NASTA relays, Bitcoin nodes, all that stuff. And it's not even that Mark takes Bitcoin as payment. It's that there's no easier guy to deal with than Mark and no easier team to deal with than the team at Easy DNS. How do I know this? Well, because a bunch of you guys have told me. And we know because Mark's been a friend of the show for a long time and a friend of ours for a long time. And if you're looking to do some domain work, some registrar work, and you need some help, Mark's your guy. So head over to Easy DNS, use the promo code CBP Media, and get half off your first round of buys. You can't beat that. Who's the second sponsor?
Bull Bitcoin. And if you are in Colombia, welcome aboard because now you are able to buy and sell using Bull Bitcoin.
Hell yeah.
A lot of good things you could do. Like I mentioned, not just buy and sell, but you could send some people some money and it's Bitcoin you send to Bull Bitcoin and cash ends up, CAD ends up in your friend's account. You could pay bills with Bitcoin. You could do reoccurring buys. You could do auto buys, limit orders. This is incredible from a non-custodial exchange because typically they do not offer these levels of services. And a non-custodial exchange, this is what you want because you don't want somebody else holding onto the Bitcoin that you purchase. And Bull Bitcoin does not do that. In order to facilitate the buy, you got to provide a Bitcoin address. They may not be the right one. You can provide a fictitious one, but that's the only way they're going to be able to facilitate the transaction. So check them out, especially if you're in Colombia, man. Bogota, Medellin, where the heck you are. Welcome aboard, brothers and sisters and everybody else. And yeah, check it out. We have a referral code below. If you do use that to sign up, all your buys and sells forever is going to be a little bit cheaper. So you might as well do it. They are the best in the game. And that's where I buy my Bitcoin. Never sell, always buy.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Lots to talk about here. We have no interview scheduled this week. I need to get back on the interview train, but life is busy, but I will do that. Len and I are both going to do more interviews. We're going to try and get back to that regularly because I know you guys want them, and we're getting a lot of people messaging us about who we should talk to. So I've amassed a list. Will I get through the list? I don't know, but we'll worry about that in the future. You want to do the boost there, sir?
Boost, yes. Let's do that. Doom Satoshi, 521 sats. And he writes in, Trezor was the first hardware wallet by Merrick Palatinus. I may have butchered that, a.k.a. Slush. Sometimes the first isn't the best, but they have at least that honor to be the first out there. So
yeah, someone's got to kick the door in, right? What did you say the other day? You got to be the first guy through the door. Is the bloodiest? Is that the
first through the wall? First through the door is when they get the most bloodied.
Yeah.
And Trezor certainly is. They have a lot of wounds. Doug, 1,050 sats, and he writes in, woohoo, wallet of Satoshi winding up in Europe, but in the UK with all its draconian free speak limiting laws still allow me to tip my barber with sats. A small win, but I'm going to take it. Now to
Huge.
help my hair cutting buddy transition into self-custodial lightning. Let's hope he does that. Yeah, because Wallet of Satoshi certainly is not self-custody. It's you're having somebody else hold on to it.
That's right.
So maybe it's a good thing that they're letting Europe push people away from Wallet
Yeah,
of Satoshi.
you got to learn, right? Force them to learn. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like that.
Business Cat, thank you for submitting a boost rather than streaming a sats. At least you get more bang for the buck, in my honest opinion. And he writes in for 1,337 sats. He writes in powerful. That was with 1 hour reps last week. You break it up into two episodes. So
yeah, great. Love to hear that. Thanks, Business Cat. Bless.
Jer writes in for 2,000 sats. Great rip. And Jer also, I have to point out, he released what was that thing? Was it
a betting market has emerged on CBP content? I'm gonna find it right now.
I'm trying to find it. Yeah, where the heck did I post that? In our internal chat. We're both struggling here. Here he goes. The Hamilton versus Brampton Man outcome, February 2026. The website is Predix, Predyx. And you could see over there, there's 4 different outcomes. You could bet with Bitcoin. Kind of like a poly market, but with Bitcoin is I have no affiliation with this. I have no idea what it's all about, but you can set up any sort of betting scheme on there. And Jer set up the Hamilton versus Brampton Man outcome for February 2006.
What is it that I have to get them all right? Yeah, okay. Put it up on the screen. Should we put it up on the screen? Send it to me in the private chat. We'll put it up on the screen. We'll show people what we're talking about. If you're on audio, you have to come to video for this, but chances are you're going to want to see the betting market that's started on CBP. Unbelievable.
Thinly traded right now, but
yeah, it ought to be thinly traded. There's no controls. I could be looking at the stories for all these people. No, I'm not. But
yeah, we're going to manipulate this thing. It feels good to finally
cashing in on this stupid show. So here we go. So we got, the people think I'm going to go 3 for 4. That's where the money is right now. So yeah, there you go.
We can make that happen. No fucking problem, Joey. We're going to rake it in.
Yeah. How can you see how many bets there's been?
I have no idea. I'm not familiar with this website.
I'm not sure.
Yeah. I don't know, but yeah, you should post it in the notes just for a joke.
I'll throw it in there. Sure. Yeah, why not?
Sounds like a plan. And
got nothing to lose.
Last but not least, for the boost, we have Hammertown OG 10,000 sats.
My man.
Making up for missed boosts. Keep up the great work.
God bless you, brother. Thank you. Appreciate you, man. See you at the Collins.
What is the Collins?
It's just a bar restaurant downtown here.
Okay. As you could tell, I don't peruse the downtown Hamilton area.
No problem. Hey, it's Dundas. Don't say the H word in this podcast. Anyway, okay. So should we get after here?
Sorry, downtown Dundas. I have no fucking clue. I don't think I've ever been to Dundas, to be honest. I don't think I've been. Actually, I have driven through it.
You've never come. We joke all the time that you've never come to my house. Many of the people who've contributed to this program, Mark, the Caradzas, who else? Taylor Sugar and his buddy there, whose name is escaping me right now. Who else has been here? D, obviously. I mean, I'm friends with D anyways, so he comes all the time. But a number of people, and you have never been here, which makes me laugh every time I have to say
I don't leave the basement. So if I'm not going to leave the basement, clearly I'm not going to end up in your house.
Yeah.
Clearly it's not going to be the case.
Let's get into it. Where do you want to start? BIP, I guess, eh?
Do you want to do that? I'm like water, man. Wherever.
Let's start there. Let's start there. Yeah.
You familiar with this new proposal?
I'm somewhat familiar with it. I'm more concerned about some of the stuff adjacent to it, though. But we'll talk about it. Let's talk about it.
Okay. Well, it's a proposed soft fork, and it's going to set some limits on the data fields. So this will be at the consensus level. So the reason for this, the idea about all this BIP-110 is to correct incentives for storing arbitrary data on Bitcoin, on the blockchain. And they're saying, quote, refocus priorities on improving Bitcoin as money. That's as per them, the BIP proposal dude, actually. And so some of the things they're going to be doing in order to achieve this goal, they're going to be removing the 83 byte limit on op returns. And there are also going to be limits on Taproot and other goodies. Really, all this boils down to is there's going to be a real hard push towards smaller blocks. You can't shove in arbitrary data in Bitcoin blocks. And this then is the idea, it's going to be used more of a medium of exchange rather than file storage. And even if you want to try doing some file storage, there's going to be a cost to it. It's going to be not as cheap as it is right now. So non-monetary transactions are going to be more costly, and it's going to be incentivized to not do those. So if you are interested in this, and some people are, you could run one of those clients. They're available right now. It's a modified NOTs client, and they're right now, from what I gathered, they're only available for Start9 and Umbrel. And a standalone client is going to be released shortly. I could be wrong in the last part. Maybe there's already a standalone client right now. And this is, how it's going to work, it's going to be a miner activated soft fork initially. And if there isn't enough people or miners out there that signal support by September of this year, at least estimated September, then it will turn into a user activated soft fork. So that's the mechanism in which they're going to try to activate this. And one way, as I mentioned, to show support for this is to run a client, right? Miners, they could do what they want, right? They have every incentive to do something that's going to make them the most money. Do they give a shit about this? Maybe, maybe not. Like I said, miners, I suspect that their incentive is just strictly maximizing profit. They're not there to do anything else aside from that. Maybe you might have some altruistic miners out there that just really believe in certain things, like this is my goal, but the majority of them are not. Look at like Mara, for instance. They're pieces of shit. And the activation threshold for this is 55%.
That's a big problem. That's a big problem.
And this needs to be done within a difficulty adjustment period. So 55% is slightly above majority. I mean, before I go any further, I'm curious, why is that a problem? Is because too low or too high?
For a bunch of reasons. Finish the story and then we'll talk about it, because I have a lot of thoughts on this. I think this is a terrible idea. But anyway.
Now, the author of this does say in his proposal that there is the potential of freezing funds. Now, albeit the chances are extremely small, minuscule, astronomical, probably is more realistic, but still there is that outcome here, that there are some people that might, like I say, astronomical, that could result in having their funds frozen if they adopt this. And he outlines exactly what is the scenario. If you go on the website BIP-110.dev, you can see right there, it outlines what it is. To me, that's kind of a little scary if he's acknowledging that it's there. And not too long ago, last week, I think it was, we blasted Bitcoin Core because people who merged their wallets using Bitcoin Core, they were potentially losing funds. And, it took place because of one of the latest releases of Bitcoin Core. And I was mentioning that the code is getting complex. It's getting real complex. It's many, many lines of coding here. And this proposal, if you look at it on the GitHub, you can see that there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of lines of coding that is going to be altered as a result, or added as a result of this BIP. So finding the end result here, it's going to be difficult, maybe impossible to do it at this particular moment. The only way to do it is to roll it out, roll the dice, see what happens, and then see if there's going to be some unintended.
Love that for Bitcoin, by the way. Just roll it out, see what happens. Love that approach. Yeah.
So we already acknowledged that under certain conditions, and I said it's astronomical that there's going to be people that could have their funds frozen. All right. So we know that, but what else is lurking in the shadows that we don't know? Either somebody might know what's going to happen and they'll execute it once it's activated, or we'll just learn it along the way and somebody will execute certain plans along the way. I don't know. Either way, they are doing this in stage releases in terms of the release candidate. Right now, I believe we're release candidate number 2, and release candidate number 3 is coming up very, very soon. And with respect to this, I get what they're trying to achieve in terms of making it more challenging to put arbitrary data on Bitcoin. I get that. And I know that they want to make some changes, effectively making block sizes smaller. But what could break as a result of this? I don't know. I mean, I don't know who could take advantage of it right now, but I don't want to see somebody take advantage of it in the future. And another outcome, if this comes out or doesn't come out, people reject it altogether, it doesn't reach the 55% in both the miner activated soft fork and user activated soft fork. I'm wondering if this is going to be making Luke disgraced in the community and potentially walking away from Bitcoin altogether. We've had it. It happened before. People that were prominent members in Bitcoin walk away when things don't come out the way they wanted to. Could the same thing happen with Luke? I would bet against that, but it's within the realm of possibility. But really, no matter what happens here, I hope we don't, because if we lose a talented coder, I think we are at a loss. It's utter detriment to have that happen. I don't want to see this take place. So to go back, 55%. You mentioned that you were not too happy with that.
Oh God, no.
Too low, too high,
way too low.
Way too low. Okay.
Yeah. Like think about the progression. Yeah, think about the progression of like changes to the network, right? If you go back to like 2010, whatever, like the Genesis years, there's no governance. It's just Satoshi changing code. Fine. In 2012, you have OP eval, 50% threshold failed. Okay, so 50% they couldn't get it done. Between 2012 and 2015, I'm looking at my notes here, BIP-34 and BIP-66, which was 75%, it's advised 95% mandatory change. 2016 and 17, obviously SegWit stalled at 30% support, and then there was user activated soft fork. BIP-91 was the compromise. That was 80%. 2021 Taproot, that was speedy trial. You mentioned 90% threshold over a 3-month window. So the window was longer and the threshold was higher. That's like true super majority stuff. Activated, no problem. That was a clean win. And now we're going to 55%. And then if it fails, you can do a UASF. Like at what point, the problem is like, at what point do we admit, okay, that Bitcoin governance isn't technical anymore? It's political, right? You're basically trying to see who's got power here. Is it the miners who have it, the users who have it, the nodes who have it? Like this is what they're trying to figure out. And that 50% is I think that's too low a number, 55%. I don't want 55 to be the number for changes. And don't forget, like the other thing that people miss these days, because things are good, you know, you had $100,000 or whatever we're at, things are good. Everyone's fat and happy. Okay. But the thing that people are missing and kind of forgetting is that there are a lot of people making big investments in this network on the mining side, on the infrastructure side, stuff like grid management, stuff like ETFs, you know, hold your tomatoes. This stuff is investable because the network is resilient to whimsical changes in policy. Miners can't invest long-term in hardware if people are making changes at 55%. It's not feasible. Not necessarily because of this change, but because if you do it once, you open the door to do it other times. We talk about that. It's a criticism of Ethereum. Ethereum rolled the chain back or froze funds at one time. And now anytime anyone talks about Ethereum being money, any competent discussion has to include that they already nuked their independence one time. And I'll say this is my probably least popular take for sure on this show, but maybe, you know, on Bitcoin Twitter broadly. I'll lead with a question. Why are the blocks so small now?
You mean not filled?
No, I mean, like, why is the block size limit so low?
To enable anybody out there
exactly
to run it.
Right. And so that technology,
the cost of becoming a node runner isn't astronomically high.
That's right. That technology, in terms of data storage, bandwidth, and general throughput, is going the other way. It's enabling more data storage, easier to run a larger node, easier to process bigger blocks. The demand is going that way. More people want to get into transactions. I mean, I shouldn't say that right now because we're low sats per byte, but like if you think adoption is going that way, there's no debating whether or not the tech is going that way. Why are we shrinking the blocks? Like, I realize there's an argument to be made about, you know, in between on whether things are useful data, not useful data, useful on blocks, not useful on blocks. But it seems to me this is it's completely missing the mark. Where do you come down on that?
Hard to process. I'm not making a block size smaller with the intention of removing arbitrary data, maybe it's not too bad. I'm not saying that this BIP is the way to go. We should be doing it. I'm just saying just the idea of pushing towards that direction. I don't think it's right. If you're taking away just the arbitrary data, does it change anything for the monetary use of Bitcoin? You're still able to send your sats to somebody else. Who gives a fuck about somebody?
If we do it, if we do it this way, it's bad for Bitcoin, I would say. Like go ahead.
I didn't mention, and I should have it. There's a potential chain split that could come as a result of this. Right?
Yeah.
If you have two different clients running two different rules, because this is a soft fork, it's backwards compatible. You can potentially get a chain split from this. And then what happens if that happens? Will miners then, the orphan chain, does it that they lose everything in that? All the the rewards that come alongside that? It'd be a challenging situation for a lot of folks out there. And then this is another reason when you do a transaction, you wait for many blocks to settle before you move your Bitcoin, because you want to make sure for damn sure it's the right fucking chain that you're dealing with rather than the wrong one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, and SegWit, you talked about it. Remember, Luke was the guy who was responsible for.
I know.
That was his
I know.
genius.
SegWit was like clean though, right? Like I don't think a lot of people were debating the whether he was an honest actor at that point. You know what I'm saying? And now that debate exists, and so when you talk about that alongside a 55% activation rate, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous to do 55%. It makes us look stupid. Like and by the way,
it's a majority.
I know, but it's bullshit. It's bullshit. Like 55% is not the right number. This is a super majority type change he's asking to make. And I think everyone, if you give them some honesty sauce, okay, will say to you that 55% is too low. You can't make a change to a monetary network on 55% of the people voting. Now, I will also add, again, hold your tomatoes, that there's bigger fish to fry right now in Bitcoin. And I think, like I've said this many times, I think quantum is one of them, among others. But this is not a problem for right now. There's no block demand. So what is he worried about arbitrary data for? There's no demand on layer one. So what is he worried about? Every time I go to send Bitcoin, it's a 1 sat per BByte for immediate settlement.
There is the moral and legal consequences that people are saying as a result of what could potentially be stored.
There's already tons of shit on the blockchain like that. Show me the precedent for legal action. Show it to me. Where is it?
I have. There
is none. That's because there is none. And show me the let me know when money is supposed to be based on the ethics of one guy. Like this is basically what it's coming down to. I don't think this is a good idea, and I don't think it's a good idea to even entertain the debate. Honestly,
there I am.
Oh,
I went black for a second.
You look okay to me. You got to get off that Linux machine. Shut your VPN off. You got to go.
The VPN maybe. I'm uploading some shit in the background. I forgot it was uploading. So.
Well, that'll probably do it.
A little bit of everything. I'm very.
But you know what I'm saying? Like I see all caps is in the chat. It's not about the size, but about the content, making your node illegal and moral run. Again, show me the precedent. Show it to me. What I see is a lot of people have tried to take down Bitcoin for a long time on different legal thresholds for laundering money, KYC, AML, terrorist fund, like you name it. But there's been weird data on the chain in blocks for a long time. We all agree on that.
Well, maybe I've heard this. I'm not going to go searching for it because I don't want to uncover it.
But like, so certainly, if it was there and if it was available to take the token down, we would have had this problem already. We have not. There's got the panic is misplaced. Okay. And I'm not saying you should panic about stuff like quantum or other potential BIPs or problems, but we have other problems that are clearly going to come to a head in the next 10 years. Okay.
People just want to fight for the sake.
They want to fight. Things are too good. Everyone's too fat. We need a real bear market, like a $20,000 drop. And for all these people, just shut up and get back to what actually matters. By the way, you're watching other tokens start to go this direction. They're not politicking nearly as much as they used to be. I'm talking specifically about the token that shall not be named. They're not doing a lot of politicking anymore.
Do you mind name? unaware of this.
It's the bankless favorite. It's the bankless.
I don't even know what ETH is doing.
That's because nothing's happening over there. They're just fucking working.
I don't.
And you know, whether you like ETH or not as a token or whatever, like I think they got away from the whole global money thing, but they're working on stuff that we are simply not working on it. And you know, at some point, the other thing too that you have to think about is if you don't make these changes now with competent devs who are not experiencing a ton of pressure, not under a lot of duress, like when Larry Fink wants you to make a change, okay, or wants to change in the network, when these other guys who have tons of Bitcoin holdings, who are holding Bitcoin for major institutions, like the pressure you get in your replies, Luke, is not going to compare to the pressure you get from those guys to do things a certain way. So if you want to make a significant change to the network, do it the right way and do it soon. Because once those guys,
what is the right way, and what would in your eyes?
Give me back give me the top route. 90% 3-month window, no problem. If it reaches that, shit, I would even take 80% at a 3-month window.
So it's not how this is done in terms of like what's under the hood of the coding. It's the mechanism of activating it. That's
I don't give a shit. Like whatever. I disagree with shrinking the blocks, but that's secondary to this other thing, because this other thing jeopardizes the entire proposition of hard money going forward. If you start doing 55% changes and like that's all we care about, 55 is nothing. It's nothing. And people need to start thinking about this stuff, because it's no longer the problem with these OGs is that they still think Bitcoin is a pet project on Git and this thing is worth $10,000. It's not. Okay. You're competing with gold and silver now. You're about to enter a true fourth turning where neutral money is going to be very important. And you need neutral money that stays neutral, not gets caught up in the political whims of nerds and geeks who didn't get laid till they were 30 fucking years old. I don't want that. This is not any way to handle money. You need people who are serious about the use case, and they still think the use case is the one from 2015. We're past that now. You may like that or dislike that. You may agree with it or disagree with it, but this is the world in which we live as Bitcoiners now. And the idea that you can just keep going this direction with it's a pet project, we need to make these changes, shrink blocks, hide bad data or limit bad data. Stop. Show me the precedent for any of the things you're worried about, and then we'll talk about it. But I don't see it. And no competent person sees it. There's no one talking about this at the level of we're close to being a global reserve asset. Let's shrink the block size. Nobody is talking about this.
Do you look at what Matthew Crater and Mechanic?
No, I don't care what that guy thinks.
You don't follow
Mechanic. I would love to have on the show because I think we would disagree, and I would love to really push him on this. Mechanic is great. He's very technical, but he's mid curving so much of this, in my opinion. Like, don't think too much about it. Just look at what's in front of you instead of guessing at what might come next based on stuff that happened again when the network was 5 years old. Like these are different times. You're operating in a different environment, and this thing is a different beast now. That's my big issue.
Do you have an issue with what's happening in New York and the New York coin?
God, Eric Adams. I love this guy. I love the clip of him in the airport telling that girl to fuck herself. You're going to see the Brooklyn in me. So good. She's trying to heckle him. He's like, I'm not even the mayor anymore. You're going to see the Brooklyn in me. You keep this up. Something like that.
Remember we had a long time ago Miami coin?
Yeah. How's that guy doing? Eric Suarez? No, Francis Suarez. Francis Suarez.
Yeah, he's no longer the mayor, is he?
I don't know.
I think it's a lady that's the mayor of Miami now, but I could be wrong. I don't really give a fuck. But that Miami coin was truly a shit coin. We have another contender that's going to compete against it.
Banger.
Yeah. And I did some research on the Miami coin. It ended up dying a slow and quiet death in 2023. It was delisted by the exchange OK Coin, and they suspended trading, and it was basically it for Miami coin. And Eric Adams decides, you know what? This was done once. I'm going to do it fucking better, right? He's going to fix all of New York's problems, and there may be tons of them that could be fixed. And he was New York mayor up until like December 31st. Right?
Yeah.
Is that so? You just
I think around that time, anyways, when Mamdani took over there, Kamdani.
I think January 1st he was sworn in.
I don't know.
Anyways, Adams, former Mayor Adams is now jobless, and he was doing some traveling. I did some research. He went to Dubai. He was in the Democratic Republic of Congo, and I'm wondering during those travels when he came up with this bright idea. And this is the release of the NYC New York meme coin, and he says that this is his quote: "We're about to change the game, and this thing is gonna take off like crazy." And it took off like crazy. It did, when one direction and then the other, because well, they set it up. This is the beautiful part, by the way, too. He was going to use a portion of the proceeds that would be divided evenly amongst three causes, Joey: anti-Semitism, anti-American awareness campaigns, and crypto education for the city's youth and its scholarship.
A lot of people learned a lesson from this, that's for sure. I'll tell you that much.
So he was pumping his shit out of this fucking bag here. It reached $600 million market cap, and then it crashed some 75% in an instant, just flash. And it looks like that the accounts that were involved with the creation of this token, they withdrew $2.5 million worth of coins. And this is a classic rug pull. Yeah. And check this beauty name from a blast from the past. This is a good one. Apparently, he was even getting the advice from one Brock Pierce before launching.
Wow. And Mighty Ducks actor, that guy?
That's the dude, man.
Wow.
The rumor is that Eric Adams, while he was mayor, by the way, would sometimes get to use Pierce's private jet. And it was rumored that Pierce is calling himself as Adams' crypto advisor. So there's a simple rule here, right?
Yeah, what's the rule? Give me the rule.
Pierce is involved, run the fuck away. But if it's not Bitcoin, it's trash. And this is another one. And the scammers out there, they could just fuck themselves. They took people's money, they took them for a ride, and they made themselves rich or richer at the expense of a lot of people that just got rug pulled. And I don't understand how anybody in this day of age could get pumped up, hyped up about a project like this. You're dumb as shit if you're one of these fucking projects. You think these are legit. I don't know about you, Joy. I'd rather shove my dick in a pencil sharpener than fucking invest in this stuff.
Pull me through a knot in the fence by my cock, I guess, instead of doing whatever this is. Yeah,
fucking bullshit. Anyways, Eric Adams, no corner of the week.
The best is the videos of him going around New York City and talking about how NYC token's going to launch to fight anti-Semitism, like the man on the street videos. Did you see any of these?
No.
This is some of the worst content I have ever seen in my life. I loved every second of it. He's in the cab. We got to fight anti-Semitism in this city. We got to launch this token. I'm in it for the long haul on Twitter. Let me tell you what the long haul looked like. January 12th, he launches the token at a Times Square event. That probably wasn't cheap. January 12th at 12:30 p.m., token reaches 580 million market cap. January 12th, 1 p.m., token crashes 81%. And turns out that most of the liquidity was removed from the pool. Now there's a class action lawsuit being organized against Mayor Adams. How about that? That's like the craziest 8 hours probably in that guy's life, isn't it? Like completely insane. I love that.
He's relevant again.
Oh my God. Like whatever. The pattern, really, the rule is when you look at these guys who have like declining relevance and declining power, politicians are great for this, right? Because they're a special mix of full of hubris and stuffed with incompetence. And when they lose their advisors and just keep around them their grifters and homies from, when they were not as popular, they get bad advice. And so it's perfect time for a guy like Brock to sleep in, Freudian slip there, to sweep in and grab him, by the meme coin and see what happens, right? Just put his name on it or have him pump it up or pimp it on the streets there. Incredible. And like every other time, Len, you said it. It's, man, if you can hit a couple of these like major flag posts here, signposts, you're in a rug. You're in a rug pull, I think this is great. Not since Hawk Tua have we seen a rug pull like this, Now he needs to get in touch with Haley Welsh's PR people and find out how she just faded into obscurity after robbing, God knows how many people of Welsh token liquidity money. I love this. This is great. He's too interested in being in front of a camera to fade into obscurity, especially if New York starts to fall apart. Like that was his opportunity. Like you couldn't go on Fox News and talk about New York failing. Instead, you had to do this. How much money did you really make on this, man? I don't know. Only time will tell, Len, what happens with our friend Eric. But I wish him well. I hope he gets things in order here.
Maybe he's gonna go visit the Democratic Republic of Congo again. This time, a lot richer, and end up staying there as a result. You go. I mean,
Yeah,
land would be
maybe.
pretty cheap, or
Yeah.
go back to Dubai because the taxes are nil for certain people. So
I see John in the chat saying too, is it really robbing people? No, it's not. If you're still buying like political meme coins in the year of our Lord 2026, can't help you. you are a mark. You are a mark. If you're not at the table, you are on the menu, as the saying goes. And so I would keep that in mind if I was you.
BitX users and solo miners. Joey, this is a story for you.
Oh God. Here we go.
Analysis is showing that 36 Bitcoin blocks in the year 2025 were done by solo miners, and that may not seem like a lot if you think about it, 3 a month, but still, it's possible. Solo mining profitable? Hell no, right? There are people out there, they're using not just BitAxes, but they're using a lot of machines with giving hundreds of terahash, even more of that. And all this really is, if you're using any device, even the ones that are hundreds of terahash or as low as a BitAxe, it's just a lottery ticket. That's the way you have to look at it. Nobody should buy a lottery ticket and plan their life with the winnings of that jackpot. It's always a roll of the dice, once every 10 minutes on average. But the odds are pretty shit that you're gonna get it. But
so that's one way to put it. Yeah, about as bad as you can get in terms of odds. You can get better odds on the betting market on Hamilton Brampton, man, but you can't get those odds on
1 of 4. Seems like concerned, but at least you are contributing to the network. You're learning about mining, and you're adding to the resiliency to the network for being attacked. So that's the one benefit from all this. I know you're not the biggest fan of the BitAxe these days.
It's not that I'm not a fan. I just think it's not, you're not a home miner with a BitAxe is all I would say. That's all.
You're mining. If you're contributing any hash whatsoever, you're certainly mining.
Fair.
Yeah. And so, anybody out there, 36 blocks were built last year from solo miners. So
that's crazy.
Always a chance.
That's one every 10 days, basically. Like that's a pretty high number. So what does that mean to you? Does that mean there's a significant and growing number of home miners? It's still less than 0.001% of network hash rate. It's like a tiny, tiny amount. And you would imagine that the other bigger players are deploying capital and equipment, but still, I don't think 36 has to be the highest number ever for a year, right?
I don't know.
I mean, I shouldn't say ever, but like if we look at like the last 5 years, maybe it's the highest one. I don't know.
Maybe. I think it's now more mainstream in terms of solo mining because of the stuff like the BitAxe. We're getting more information from these solo miners.
Yeah,
I don't know, but you're right. Like the big miners, the corporate miners, they're adding shitloads of equipment out there, and I don't know if we're keeping pace in terms of home miners. So maybe we are.
No, I mean it's going to be soon. It's going to be
percentage-wise
to get. Yeah. But it's funny, like much the same as like computer RAM or GPUs. This stuff is going to become impossible to get for years as demand goes up for it. So I would say if you have like a nice S19, S21, buy one from Tuan at 256 heat. You should do that anyway. But if you do want something like that, I would say get it now. Actually, I see Mark in the chat. We talked about that at lunch today, how, home computing of any kind, whether it's mining or video rendering or graphics work or gaming, is going to become very difficult over the next few years. And you can see guys like Bezos at Dealbook, the New York Times Dealbook. I don't know if it was this year. It must have been this year. I don't know when it was though. Talking about how home compute is going to be a thing of the past. It's inconvenient. It's archaic. You should just be renting your NVIDIA 5090 use from Amazon for $8 a month or something, right? So I would say if you're looking to get stuff, do it now. Like, we obviously I'll share a story. We just bought a new CBP video rig that this stream does, and it helps me, render the episodes at the end of the night. And I was saying to Len, this thing's got a lot of firepower. You could go to space in this thing. It saves me probably 70% of the time it was taking me on the 2-year-old machine we had before, a 3080. This is a 5070. This computer on Amazon, when we bought it, was about $2,200. And now you can't even buy it. And I was saying to Mark today that the one that's a peg below this is on Amazon for $3,300 now, because the price of all the components has gone up. You can see lots of stories online of people selling DDR5 and 6 RAM at 4x what they paid only a few months ago back onto the resale market. It's going to get weird over the next little while. And I recommend people have like a quality home compute, quality home miner, quality home gaming rig, whatever you're looking for, whatever you like doing. Now is the time, even if it's a little expensive, because it's only going to get worse over the next few years. That's, by the way, AI is one thing. That's if the geopolitical situation stays neutral. Good luck with that. That's another part of the thesis that I think people are missing. So have fun, or you'll be playing Scrabble. Nothing wrong with Scrabble, but playing Scrabble and nothing else might drive you batty.
Or NHL 94. You don't need a very powerful machine to do that.
No, definitely not. No, you can play that on your phone probably.
Yeah, people do that.
Nice.
Yeah. So Semler Scientific, remember not too long ago that stock pumped after they said they're going to be buying Bitcoin, adding it to their balance sheet. Semler is supposedly the 11th largest corporate holder of Bitcoin, and they held about 12,000 Bitcoin. Well, Semler is no longer their own entity. They have been gobbled up by Strive. That's the company held by everybody's favorite H1B supporter, Vivek. And so as a result, anyone that was a Semler shareholder, they either will or have received 21.05 shares for every they will receive 21.05 shares of Strive for every one Semler stock they own. So that's not bad. 21 to 1. So the premium that they got was roughly 0.34%. So basically fuck all.
Yeah. So
there was no big incentive here to sell. They just did it. And Strive appointed, this is a name you're going to remember. I believe you brought him up. Avik Roy.
Yeah.
As their chief strategy officer.
We follow each other on Twitter. Maybe I should reach out to him. Tell him like to talk
Satoshi
about
papers.
This. Yeah, this move.
Yeah, well, he's going to be overseeing their healthcare segment of the company that they swallowed up. Interesting.
Are we in acquisition season for these small guys now?
Yeah, it's big time. It's going to be the consolidation for this shit. Companies like 21 Capital, is that the name of it? That's the one that's Jack Mahler's.
And
I think they're going to be in prime position. They have maybe not Mahler's, but I'm looking at Tether. They have fuckloads of capital that they can tap into. Big time. And they can just if they got a company, and I can't believe I'm going to even say this, but
why would you buy? Why would you buy a Bitcoin company? Presumably you do it. Wow, tell me I never cleaned this mic. There's spider webs all over here. Why would you buy a Bitcoin company for their treasury? Why not just buy the Bitcoin yourself? Then you don't have to pay the premium to the shareholders.
If it's cheaper to do it this way,
it'll never be cheaper. It'll never be cheaper.
I have no idea. In this case, they just paid a small premium above the regular share price. So they got not just the Bitcoin, but they got the company itself. Yeah. That presumably has some long-term value. They probably wanted to put it under their under the corporate umbrella. But getting another like strictly a Bitcoin treasury company, if you're getting the Bitcoin and you do the math and it's going to be cheaper to get it like this, even including the debt and everything else that comes like, makes sense. If they can get it like that, I don't know. Yeah, they can't. It doesn't make sense to do it.
I do actually. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
These companies, I think there's the smaller ones that are just struggling right now. A lot of them bought Bitcoin when it was like 100,000, 110,000. Now the price is like 91, 92,000. Their stock price took a fucking beating in the past 6 months plus. Shareholders are pissed off with them. Yeah. Why wouldn't they just capitulate, just sell to somebody, the first buyer that comes along? Yeah. Right. Well, why wouldn't they? I don't know.
Yeah. I like Boomer's comment about Tether, because you mentioned Tether. Obviously, they're affiliated with 21, and now you're seeing acquisitions and consolidations in this industry. The idea that Tether is in short-term paper, gold, other like highly liquid assets waiting for a bear market is an idea that kind of tickles my brain a little bit. And there's a few companies that are positioned to know when a bear market might come or when a big drop in price might come that affects these companies, affects treasury companies, affects Bitcoin, affects the ecosystem. There's barely
big digital assets is one of them.
Yeah, there's barely a company that's ready and can see around the corner the way that Tether can. And I really think they have a nice advantage there, especially because they have all those assets like you mentioned, and they're in bed with the US government. Like that's another bonus, right? So
Tether's in bed with the US. It's more USDC.
I mean, you can whatever. I would say they're in bed with the government. Yeah, Lutnick works for the administration, and he's part of 21, and Tether's part of 21. So to me, that's enough. Yeah, let's see. I don't know. I hesitate to say that Tether will own at least one major American treasury company outside of 21 before the end of the decade. I don't know what that company will be.
For sure. You're talking 4 years from now.
What will it be? Which one will it be? There's only a few with a potentially bigger stack, right? One of them obviously is MicroStrategy.
No, they'll never be able to get them.
I know. So like it's got to be another one, right? So who's it going to be?
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Well, I don't know. There's a bunch of others that just came out and said they're going to be buying Bitcoin. One of those, I don't know. GameStop even could be them.
What's that guy got in his balance sheet now? I haven't been tracking it. And does MBK even have them on the treasury page? I have no idea.
Do they even have Bitcoin in the balance sheet?
I don't know.
Confirmed?
I'm not sure.
Tesla does, right?
Yeah, a little bit. Adam Back's shell company. Yeah. Wonder what he thinks about 55%. Anyway, let's move on.
Want to talk about this rug, the InfoFi?
We can. Yeah, this is related to Twitter more than anything else. We may as well talk about it since it's a popular discussion. Came up at lunch, Mark and I today talking about
InfoFi. Like just the name alone, Joey, should be enough to drop the price 50% of anything related to this. Right?
Yeah.
Like, fucking InfoFi.
Yeah.
And what the fuck am I talking about this InfoFi? Here we go. It was announced on X this past week that they have banned apps that were rewarding users from posting on X, right?
Mhm.
So InfoFi, this shit was incentivizing people to post on X for rewards, and the rewards were supposedly done from these posts that were AI slop and reply spam. So people were doing AI slop and doing a lot of replies, and they're getting rewards from this.
Yeah.
Stuff like Kato, Cookie, some true garbage shitcoin projects were absolutely wrecked as a result of this. This is low-level effort when you just go out there and have bots create AI slop and then you just throw it in there for reply after reply into big account and just try to get whatever you can. Absolute trash. Again, this is shitcoin at its finest. Anything related to this is just truly a shitcoin, and I'm glad they shut the door on this bullshit.
I don't really have much to add to this, except that Twitter is incentivizing this behavior. So they can say whatever they want, but they're asking for this kind of stuff, right? And Twitter's been less than forgiving with their API access. This is another example of that, of course. Mark and I were talking today about this exact thing and how there's actually like Telegram groups where people are sharing their Twitter posts and whatnot and trying to get replies. And so that was another thing that was affected was the reply side. Twitter's looking at this a lot. And these tokens, like, I don't care about these tokens. I have in my notes here that one of these things dropped like 20% basically overnight. Cattle token, whatever it's called. Should be called cattle token, but I think it's called Cato token. And if you're still playing these games, there is room to make money on these things. But the rug comes out so fast on these tokens because the liquidity is so low, the market cap is so low, and there's always insiders. You can't compete with insiders. If there's a Discord and a Telegram and you're joining it and not creating it, you're vulnerable to get rugged. This is that is the hard and fast rule for all these alts, especially ones that are like attention tokens and have DAOs and whatever else. Just stay away. And by the way, if you want to get monetized on Twitter, there's other ways to do it. You don't need to also risk this kind of nonsense just because you need a couple of bucks. Like, go drive Uber or something. You're better off. You'll sleep better at night.
Yeah, people want to do the quick way. They don't want to put in the hard work.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's whatever. Iran so far away. Bad joke. Okay, go ahead. Yeah. The economic crisis that's going on over there.
That's to say the least. Yeah, to say the least.
And I have a Yahoo article was talking about why Bitcoin is needed over there. And the currency, obviously, the real is getting smoked. You have the official exchange rate and you have on the street exchange rate, and there's a disparity between the two. And over time, it's just been going the wrong direction with respect to being valued against the US dollar. And sanctions are hurting their ability to buy and sell abroad, so making their currency less appealing to use. And if you believe the folks from Chainalysis, they say that the use of Bitcoin and other digital assets has soared in Iran in 2025. And they say the reason for this is to park their money elsewhere and also to allow for international business to avoid sanctions. And for their sake, I hope that they aren't relying too much on stable coins, because stuff like USDC and USDT are centralized, and they could be frozen at a whim, just a simple phone call to the node runner, and they could freeze accounts and effectively lock them out of their wealth. That can't happen to Bitcoin. Remember, not too long ago, we had the courts in Ontario getting in touch with Nunchuck.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Got a nice letter back. We'll be there for you when the currency fails too. Don't worry about it.
So can't do that on a truly decentralized platform like Bitcoin. But back to Iran, it's reported that there was a huge spike in withdrawals from exchanges to personal wallets in the past little while. And it's possible with this economic crisis that's going on over there that new Bitcoiners have been minted in Iran.
For sure. Yeah.
I'm positive, small number, but there's going to be a few new ones. And once people buy Bitcoin, I'm going to fucking bet money they are not going to transfer that back into the real. Maybe into USD, but not to the local currency. It just doesn't make sense. Maybe they could have traded for goods and services, but going back to cash, in local cash, no fucking way. And it's not going to be rosy for those that withdrew their Bitcoin from exchanges, right? Because they withdrew at a time when things are going crazy. It's likely they are KYC'd from those exchanges, and now they have a target on their back by the government. The government now knows those people withdrew and has X amount of Bitcoin on their balance sheet. I don't think it's going to be a good time moving forward for those people, especially if they want to sell that information. Remember, we talked about in France last week, some crooked people working for the government sold that to gangs. Same thing could happen here, right? That it's very much possible, but it just goes to show you when things go sour, Bitcoin is a good alternative to whatever is being offered by the country.
We lead the show with me saying friends and enemies all the time. We have it on the t-shirts. It's in it's in a lot of our content. Here's the reason why. You know what Iran's total crypto activity is in dollars? It's about 7.8 billion. Do you know how much of that is the Islamic Revolutionary Guard?
5?
3. So about half, right? You got about half of the total is them. So whether you are friend or enemy, it works for you. And over the last year, Len, the IRGC usage has increased by 40%. So they are using it a bunch to skirt a bunch of different sanctions and monitoring and God knows what else. It's actually crazy. They think that these guys are funding Hamas, Hezbollah, and Sarala, which is in Yemen. That's the Houthis, the Iraq militias, and there's additional Syrian and Palestinian networks that are being funded by the IRGC through Bitcoin, crypto, whatever, weapons procurement, ops funding, tactical stuff. This is how they're paying for a lot of it. This is obviously a big knock. I mean, a knock for sort of midwits, I think, that you can do this with money, but obviously, pallets of cash of American dollars work the same. You can Google that if you like.
It makes me wonder when this thing if it ever gets resolved, if this civil unrest somehow gets, I'm wondering if they're going to be ripe for another attack by Israel.
I don't know.
Because Israel obviously is not going to do it now. You're not going to attack your enemy when your enemy is killing themselves. Like they're doing whatever they can to weaken themselves. But when this stops, if it ever stops, I'm wondering if Israel will just step in and say, like, we're going to continue what we started some time ago, and it could escalate into something big. I'm just wondering.
I also should point out that, we often hear one of the criticisms, again, from like the sort of the lowest common denominator. I'm trying to be nicer on the show. The lowest common denominator types will say, well, Bitcoin's not going to work if your internet goes out. Well, we're going to see now, because it seems to me like Iran has cut the internet at least at some level, and assuming that people want to move their capital out of Iran or take it with them somewhere or keep it safe during all this and not in the bank and not in their basement, whatever, Bitcoin is a good proxy. So let's see how much use goes up. Also, Len, like you mentioned it, the currency is at zero over there. So you've basically lost every dollar of value that you've accrued, whether you're a business owner or a taxi driver. and you had nothing to do with it. You're dealing with an oppressive government who squandered, God knows how much of a head start they had. Everyone's seen these sort of pre-Islamic revolution pictures from the 70s. And you're at the mercy of government action or inaction when it comes to the currency value. I can't tell people enough that not having any Bitcoin exposes you to this. Like, we're about to enter into a trade deal with China in this country. For those who think we're insulated, we're about to enter into a trade deal with China. What's going to happen to the currency if China pulls the plug one day? Or if the U.S. decides that they're going to really impose some serious sanctions on us because of the partnership? What happens to the Canadian dollar? You can be the judge of that. You'll find out very quickly. And if you're saving in that currency, there's no helping you. No one's going to come bail you out. If they print to try and make up the difference in value, it just makes it worse. You get stuck in a real loop there. And I don't think many people realize that. And the sooner they realize it, the better. The problem, like we always say, though, is that once you need it, it's too late. And so for a lot of these Iranians, unfortunately, and it could happen here, it could happen anywhere, it's going to be too late once people figure it out. The other thing, too, is that war is now a sort of digital frontier first and foremost as well, a monetary frontier first and foremost. It's not a boots on the ground first thing. And so, boots on the ground used to be a leading indicator, or troop movements or warship movements or whatever. But now you may not even get that much warning. The first time you realize there's a problem, it might be with the currency. And then by that time, it's really too late. So keep that in mind.
The people that are being impacted there the most, in my opinion, are the ones that are pensioners, seniors.
Totally.
If they have no ability to earn any money, they're relying totally on what they've earned. And if it's 100% tied into the real or whatever it's called, their local currency, they're fucked.
Yeah.
And oh well, it sucks for them. And
you're at the CBP, where empathy is the name of the game.
Big time.
Sucks for you.
Suck on that, buddy. Suck on that. Let's
transition.
Yeah, let's go to the notable side. There's lots to fucking talk about.
Yeah, today. we got a lot going on. If you're on Twitter, I can see that all you guys are watching on Twitter. Come to YouTube, okay? I promise. The chat is fine. It's not hostile. I'll be able to see the things you comment. And also, we can see, and the YouTube chat can see the things you comment. So it's easier like that. I don't have to stop the show to say I see a guy on Twitter, which I usually do, but I haven't done in a while. So let's go over. If you're on audio, see you tomorrow. If you're on video, come over to YouTube. We're not going anywhere. We'll talk to you soon.
Don't be a cock.
Yeah, I went for dinner or lunch with Mark today, and we had a nice time at the Collins in Dundas. Love that place. I wanted to go for Thai. I was thinking about Thai, but Mark wasn't feeling it. So I said, all right, the burger was pretty good. We ended up both getting chicken sandwiches, which I don't always do, but the good Nashville chicken sandwich at the Collins is a winner for sure. Yeah, love that. We had a good talk. I like talking to Mark. I can see Mark in the chat. I'm not glazing him, but it's good to talk to somebody who's on the same page in a lot of ways. We were talking about how there's so much black pilling going on. And when you go on Twitter, it's either black pilling or someone like slop coding a trillion different apps. I just broke down this $10 billion business in 30 seconds. Here's what it means for my LinkedIn friends.
And it didn't take him long. The guy just was vibe coding to get to that. So,
I made an app. I showed Mark. Maybe I'll try and sell it at some point, but I think it's pretty clever. I don't know.
Who owns the IP to that?
I own it, I guess, or Claude. Maybe Claude owns it, or Replit. I think I used Replit for it, or Replit. I don't know.
Be careful, because you do not want to get sued later on, right?
Well, sued for what? For what? You don't even know what the app is. Oh, fuck! No, it'd be fine.
You're not China, man. You can't just reverse engineer stuff and fucking copy it.
It's not my IP.
Joey.
It's my IP.
So it's a bit different.
Where do you want to start?
Talk about silver.
This nonsense. Sure. Okay.
Fuck, the U.S. Mint, they're even temporarily selling products that have some silver in it, and it looks like
they're halting sales.
They're temporarily halting it, and so they're going to reprice things and they'll make things available in the future. But the way silver is going up, they got to just wait it out for this stuff to. It's almost at 100 USD.
Yeah,
it's
got a date with 100, buddy. You bet on that.
Fucking what an epic rise for this. not just the other raw materials too, and it's causing issues, right, for the mint. And nickels, nickels cost now way more to mint than what it's worth.
Yeah.
So it's a money losing game for them. The senior age doesn't apply to nickels, but other things like dimes and shit like that certainly does. Electric cars too, they're going to be taking a hit because Carney, we'll just quickly mention that they opened a door for a few Chinese cars to EVs to enter our marketplace. But remember, EVs, they have some silver in the batteries, right? So not a lot, but enough that it's going to cause some problems when you do mass production of this shit. And in the end, it's going to cause a little bit of price rise for the EV cars. Even electronics, you were mentioning, get electronics now, because laptops, cell phones, tablets, they all have some silver in it, right?
Yeah, man, I'm telling you, dude. Like, I bought a MacBook Air for me maybe a week ago, and I don't regret it at all, because I know for sure that this stuff is going to become so expensive and so hard to get over the next little while. Apple actually has a locked-in price for some of the components, but not for the metals. Not for the cost of batteries, not for all this stuff. And like, man, I you look at the price of silver, which, by the way, I think a lot of people still consider silver to be a monetary metal. I don't. You can make the case for gold for sure. Gold is like a different animal altogether. But silver is telling you a commodity story and an energy story, not necessarily a currency or global stability story. And I think that people are thinking they're the same thing, but they're actually two horses pulling that same buggy in a direction that's not good for any of us. And I think people are kind of missing that two-prong view on those two moves.
And AI data centers too.
Forget it. Right?
They're fucking trying to put, there's a huge shortage of equipment like RAM, DDR5.
Can't get it.
RAM.
They're buying. So I'll break this down a little bit for people who are listening and watching, of course. Look for some changes on the YouTube side, by the way, coming up soon. The thing about the people who don't I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with not understanding the shortages. Like, I try and talk to my wife about this stuff as I'm just like babbling in the kitchen. And when you say to somebody that there's going to be a shortage of equipment, what they hear is AI companies are going to buy all the graphics cards. They're going to buy all the RAM. They're going to buy all the X, Y, Z, whatever. But what they're actually doing is buying at the wafer stage, it's called pre-manufacturing silicon, graphics cards, whatever, and using it for other applications in their process. And because they're, in a lot of ways now, because the Mag 7 is really spearheading this, they're sort of the tip of the spear. They're too big for the government to tell them no. It's pensions, it's stock market, it's everything. They cannot. Yeah, John saying in the chat they're buying chip futures. Love that. You cannot tell these guys they can't buy the stuff, because not only is it a risk on the sort of like stability side, thanks to all that, but also, Len, they're like 3% or like 50% of the GDP growth over the last 3 years in the States. Have you seen these numbers? Like AI and AI adjacent companies are like between 40 and 50% of GDP growth in the US. They need that number to keep going up. And it's just going to get worse for the average person. It really is. And like I said earlier, you have guys like Bezos talking at DealBook, and God knows what Davos is going to yield this week. I almost want to break stride and do like a best of Davos video on this channel and just pull clips like No Agenda would or something. Because God knows there's going to be some bangers. But you're going to see more of this own nothing and be happy. It's your house, your car, and now it's your computer too. You get nothing, man. You're streaming. It's like, Jesus, man. You can't win. You just have to be prepared is the thing you have to do. Are you prepared for that? And I don't know if you are or not. So John saying I shouldn't do the Davos video. John, just because you said that, I might do it. A Davos clip pull video would be a great content. God knows it would get a ton of plays. People love that shit. But you're right. It might be damaging to my mental health for sure.
Have AI figure it out for you. That way your mental health isn't going to be suffered.
So send someone else's mental health.
Yeah. When it's a computer. So in the end, it's worth a lot now because of silver. the U.S. I'm not sure if you saw. You must have saw this story. They're pausing immigration for some 75 countries out there.
Overdue, probably. I told someone today that I'd stop painting everyone with a broad brush. So I don't want to talk about immigrants broadly, but let's talk about it as a U.S. problem that most Western countries share. There's a problem with integration, and there's a problem with ethnic enclaves because we've let, I'm going to say we here as if I'm an American, we've let too many people in at once, and it's causing issues. The Minnesota stuff really did blow the lid off of this.
So they're the way you're framing it, though. If I explain one of the countries that is off the list, may just kind of debunk exactly what you said.
Yeah,
India didn't make the list.
I know.
And the reason for this, they said the countries they have in the 75, like Somalia, Haiti, Iran, Eritrea, etc. They say they're the ones that typically are using social services like healthcare and stuff like that. Indian immigrants do not, statistically.
Yeah.
So in terms of integration and stuff like that, you can say what you want about them, but the Indian community statistically do not take welfare.
They actually outperform here too, compared to some African countries, some Eastern European countries, especially second generation. They outperform. Are they net contributors? You know, on the whole, I don't know, but they outperform other immigrant groups. So we're also still like this. It's going to sound like someone has a gun to my head off screen the way I'm talking here compared to what I usually say. But the other thing to consider is that we haven't run the experiment in terms of like third and fourth generations in this environment long enough to know whether or not they will become net contributors and outproduce going forward. There is a case to be made that we should halt immigration anyways, because we have an infrastructure problem, and the US is probably feeling the same way. And then of course the Minnesota thing, you know, once public opinion goes a certain way, it's really hard to get it back in the bottle. I'll mention that I don't know if you guys know this, but I heard on TFTC today in the 10 minutes I listened to it, that Nick Shirley kid was at the White House last year for something else entirely. So now I kind of think that guy's like a plant of some kind, or is like funded by the MAGA wing of the Republican Party to drive policy. I don't know for sure, but it's an interesting factoid that I had not heard. And Nick, you know, I would say conspicuously leaves out of his public appearances on podcasts and whatnot. So anyway, on the topic of immigration, I would like to see us do something similar, honestly. And it sounds like we're going to. I mean, we've seen this like big pushback, right? About, you know, why are we allowing reunification, basically, where someone comes in and then their grandparents and parents and cousins or whatever come in as well and don't contribute, and they're sick in a lot of cases, or just maybe not sick, but unhealthy, let's say, and they're going to be immediate drains on the system. It is abrasive and grating to talk about people in this manner. They are humans like you and I, but at some point there has to be an admission that there are limited resources and infinite wants around the world, especially for a place like Canada, in terms of the social support systems, and in the US in terms of opportunity. And by the way, immigrants to the US, oftentimes the highest performing immigrants who come to the US greatly outperform the highest performing immigrants to come here, which is another consideration. Why is that happening? Mostly because we program for equality here, and the States programs for opportunity. And that's another, you know, variable that needs to be considered in immigration. There's things that we can do to help our immigrants that we're not doing. Anyway, I'm rambling now, but
those 75 countries that they've shut out, that's going to be soon. I think it comes into effect later this month.
Okay.
The people that are now abroad wanting to go to the United States, it was their first choice, and now it's no longer there. And if they still want to leave their country of origin or the country they're living in, they have to pick somewhere else. Canada may be the next one.
Yeah, right? That's not good. It's not good.
So it's a possibility that there's going to be an influx of applications, not necessarily immigrants entering Canada, because those numbers are capped, but in terms of applications being filed, unless those applications are capped, I don't know.
Not sure.
But maybe they could increase those numbers because people would be more apt to apply to come to Canada because they are now shut out to go to the United States. So just who knows if that's going to have a big difference here.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I just want to address John saying in the chat about the Nick Shirley thing. Fraud is fraud. You're right. I'm not saying it's not good. It's good to expose that stuff for sure. And, you know, it may cause some social unrest, but that's a a symptom of the problem. The problem is not the reporting. The problem is the fraud. I totally agree.
So reparations from the city of San Francisco looks like it's going to be.
These guys love falling on their own sword over there.
So there is certain criteria one has to meet, and the 4 are you have to identify as a Black African American in public documents for 10 years. You got to be born in San Francisco between 1940 and 1996 and have lived in San Francisco for at least 10 years. But why 1996? If you're born in 1997, are you not considered somebody that's impacted if somebody just a year to year? I don't know. Anyways, you got to be descendant of somebody that's been enslaved before 1865, and you have to be a member of a historically marginalized group experiencing discrimination from 1937 to 1968. These years, I don't understand it, but either way, it's being reported each Black person could potentially get up to $5 million. And they say the money is not going to be coming from public pockets, but it looks like instead it's going to be coming from some sort of private donation, something else. So it's not going to be through tax dollars. It's going to be done. It's going to be done through somehow through some private money is going to be done here. So interesting stuff. So it's not anybody that's just considered to be Black or identified as Black. There's some criteria you have to meet in order to qualify for this. Interesting.
Yeah, interesting is one way to put it. You know, apart from the reparations nonsense, which by the way, competent minorities of any, ethnicity don't want, it makes them villains in their own communities. And I think in this day and age where everyone is thinking more zero sum than ever, it's important that states and cities don't do this. But here we are anyway. I would say that California has a lot of problems coming down the pipe here. I'm assuming that the Democrats will try and get Newsom into federal politics in 28 because he just seems to be talking a ton, and he's getting pretty popular people on this podcast that he has, and he's going on other podcasts. And I will assume that they're going to try and get him in there. And I look at San Fran and I look at just California, the state more broadly. I mean, you've obviously seen this story about the one-time wealth tax. Have you seen this?
No.
There's a plan to tax anyone worth over $1 billion, I think, 1% per year for the next 5 years of all their assets. And it's not just assets that are sort of, it's not everything that's bolted down or whatever.
You're forcing people to liquidate so they could pay a tax.
They're also forcing people to, there's two other problems, right? One is that it's a private asset seizure. Dave Freeberg talks about this on All In all the time. It's a private asset seizure that is unprecedented. And once you open the floodgates for that, no one's going to invest in California. No one's going to buy their bonds. No one's going to do any of that stuff. It's crazy to do it. So we're not going to, we can't have that, but they're going to try. The other thing though, that no one talks about when it comes to stuff like taxes on assets that are not on the market, things like, for example, it's the home of the startup, Silicon Valley, things like unvested shares in a startup company that's at the IPO stage, right? Like this, seed round stage. If you can't get market value for those, then the government is going to tell you what they're worth, and they're going to usurp the market. And then when you have to pay the tax on them, you have to divest, and you need to either you divest and the market is forced upon you with people knowing you need to divest to make your tax burden, or the government decides what they're worth and you don't divest and you find the money other places. But either way, the free market takes a back seat, which seems to be the problem at the core of all these things. Like whether it's reparations or taxes or any economic or social issue, they just refuse to let the market dictate the outcome. They refuse. The thumb is always on the scale, and the fix for the thumb on the scale is never take your thumb off. It's just put another thumb on the other side. And now everyone's thumbs are on both sides of the scale, and no one knows what the weight of the stuff on the scale actually is. It's a huge problem there. And I'm surprised it doesn't get national coverage in America. I suppose Americans already know it's bad maybe, and that's why, but it seems like it's underreported. I only ever hear about this stuff sort of in passing on Twitter, and I'll do a little deep dive, or on All In, they talk about it because those guys are all moving to Texas. But it seems to me it's like a total mess. And I see in the chat people saying it's ripe with fraud. Yeah, I think that's true, but it's also just ripe with incompetence, very public incompetence, which is rare for a place that size, that's that tightly covered. And by the way, like I said, I think they're going to take the guy who's leading the state and try and run him federally in 2 years. I'm surprised it's not being more widely discussed.
Want to talk about Carney's New World Order?
Do you care about this comment? You know,
the comment,
sort of
I found it
comment?
funny, but if he does want to do this, he's got to hurry the fuck up because Hollywood Hogan is gone. Kevin Nash is the only one left. Scott Hall died a few years. So if he's got to do this, he's got to consult the last original, and who knows how much longer he's on this earth. So hurry the fuck up if you want to talk to Kevin Nash. But so there is the new deal we should talk about, at least the deal with China.
Sure.
And so there's going to be some EVs that are going to be coming into Canada. Not a lot, right? It's going to be 49,000 Chinese EVs that are going to be entering Canada.
Yeah.
And so I don't think it's going to make a huge impact if they're going to keep it at that. And those 49,000 cars are going to be no longer tariffed 100%. Beyond that, I guess the 49,000, the first car is going to get the 100% tariff. So whatever. Yeah. Canola oil is not going to be taxed as high in China. Canadian canola oil, 85% down to 15%. Why not zero? I guess it's because 49,000 cars. They're just playing.
The weird thing. Yeah, the weird thing is that people in Canada, like the people who are all riled up about this, making the soy face about the cars. The case I keep hearing is that the cars are really good bang for your buck and they're better than Teslas. People hate Elon Musk, so they'd rather buy Chinese spyware, which is like a whole other level of derangement syndrome, Elon derangement syndrome. But let's say that aside, okay? The reason that the Chinese EVs are so good bang for your buck if you buy them in China is because they're subsidized. So you get a car that costs $30,000 to manufacture, let's say, for $15,000 thanks to subsidies and incentives. You're not going to get those same incentives here. Or they're going to ship you a car that was cheaper to manufacture and sell it here. Or they're going to sell you a car that's, missing a couple, they're cutting a couple of corners or whatever. Or there's many ways they're going to make up that difference. And unless we here put in subsidies, I don't think they're going to be cheap. Now, the best part about this for China is that the insanity around Elon and Donald Trump here is so bad that people are going to buy those cars regardless and drive them proud. And
it's only 49,000.
Have bumper stickers that say, at least it's not a Tesla or something like that. Like there's a whole market that's going to emerge around this. 49,000 is the start. But they're probably going to keep going. If it is truly a new world order and we're entering into a strategic partnership or whatever.
I don't think so. It was not too long ago.
Maybe.
It was not too long ago that there was discussion that Chinese was influencing Canadian politicians.
Carney told people during the election they were the greatest strategic threat.
Right. That was 9 months ago, give or take.
Yeah.
And a lot could happen in 9 months. But we had that one conservative MP that was publicly talking about how his family was contacted and shit like that. And there was discussion, some sort of RCMP report. I could be wrong about this. I remember reading an RCMP report saying that there's a number of MPs that were somehow dealing with the Chinese or influenced somehow by Chinese. I don't know. This is just a trend in the wrong direction. One thing I did not mention is Canadian LNG, liquefied natural gas, is going to be exported to China. Yep. I thought there was no demand for this. There was
no business case was the word we heard.
But here we have that somebody wants it. But what the fuck do I know? The one China policy is another thing, because the official Chinese press release after this agreement between Canada and the United States China was talking about the one China policy. Mm-hmm. And so Taiwan, it doesn't seem to be part of, it's never been a part of
Shocker.
Right. So is Canada going to adopt the same type of idea? I don't think so.
We're tying ourselves in knots with these like weird, we are supportive of attacking Hamas, but we want Palestine to be recognized as a state. We refuse to take American trade deals, but now we're going to go in with China. By the way, the big thing that's going to come soon in terms of the question I see in the chat about the spring election, Kuzma, if Kuzma is dissolved, and Trump shows no interest in renegotiating it, like that's going to be a problem. For like, what are you going to do? What is the plan if Kuzma dissolves and overnight tariffs on literally everything go up by 20%? Or sorry, I shouldn't say go up by 20%. Have 20% tariff tacked on to them. What's the plan there?
Is that the result of not having
in some silos?
I don't know.
In some silos, yeah. In others, it'll be higher. Like it's overnight. This is going to happen. And people are talking about, I don't want to rag on you because this was the headline. Carney said New World Order. Give your head a shake, guys. Your life's going to get so expensive if Kuzma expires. You're going to be begging to become the 51st state. I mean, no one in this chat has any issue with that, I'm sure. But the idea that you're going to just suddenly absorb that cost when Mexico is going to come to the table. Mexico, by the way, better manufacturing than us, right? No doubt about that. No labor unions, low cost, on the water as well. We are looking more
sugar
and
in
more,
the Coke,
real sugar in the Coke. That's right. Yeah. We are looking more and more like an economic/military zone to be acquired rather than a partner for the United States.
Do you think it's going to happen?
I don't know. Somebody I know, Mark, told me that he thinks there's a long-term play in the works between our two countries' leadership outfits to make Canada a target for annexation vis-a-vis the China partnership. Maybe I told Mark if I didn't have to record tonight, I would have carved out time to record with him this afternoon. Maybe, I don't know, Mark, text me if you're free on Wednesday. We can talk on Wednesday night. We'll just do it online. But I think it's interesting stuff there. Yeah.
Let's move over to freezing people's bank accounts because apparently that was wrong. Not just morally, it's wrong. It looks like the courts even say, yeah, this
legally wrong.
So according to the Federal Court of Appeal, the federal government was trying to overturn a 2022 decision that said using the Emergency Act was unreasonable and unlawful. And it looks like the Federal Court of Appeal didn't agree. It says this is definitely unreasonable and unlawful. And so there was no national emergency, no threat to public safety. And so the use of the Emergency Act was beyond whatever tools that they should have used. And they said this move encroached on people's rights and violated their Charter of Rights and Freedoms, specifically Section 2B and Section 8. Now, the question is, will the federal government now take this to the Supreme Court? Potentially. Why not? Doesn't make sense that they would just let this one die in the vine. What's the backlash from all this, though? We've had the lower court say they did wrong. We had the Court of Appeal say they did wrong. The backlash, you have one person chilling on a Z-Man's yacht, another person flying with Katie in a private jet, at least maybe not anymore. They may have broken up.
Len's looking at the tabloids. He's checking the tabloids.
I've heard of that's the case, right? Like it's fucking like the reality. It's fucking bullshit that this happened.
Yeah,
and it's not too long ago. It was less than 4 years ago. It was embarrassing at the moment. Embarrassing to be Canadian. It helped me define who I am as a Bitcoiner, because when you don't have control of your funds, it's not your funds, and that's why I am hardcore. Take your money, put it in, take your Bitcoin off the exchange, keep it in cold storage, and you can sleep better at night, because that's the case. If you do that, they can freeze whatever they want, but they can't freeze your Bitcoin. So that, at least I take that away. It's too bad a lot of people were hurt as a result. Are they going to get retribution from this? San Francisco giving up to $5 million for certain things.
Yeah.
Will people get anything here? I don't think so, which is too sad. Like,
I don't think so either. The judge who's hearing the cases related to convoy protesters being tried, the guy who's hearing the appeals, attended a private Mark Carney fundraising dinner and called protesters dangerous during the convoy stuff in 21. So
remember
the one that's cases are going to go
on the Z-Man's yacht, even wrote on notes saying we should classify them as terrorists.
Yeah. Freeze bank accounts, classify them as terrorists. I think then she also said that it wasn't her writing. Do I have that right?
It was in her writing.
Yeah, I think she said it wasn't in her writing.
Oh, okay.
I think don't quote me on that. Someone fact check that. But
I don't know if we're talking about the same individual.
We are. We know we are.
I don't know. I don't want to. I never said names.
Yeah.
So I never said even a gender.
Anyway, let's move on.
Some third world bullshit, right? Like this story that came out, and a lot of people read it. And Globe and Mail was saying that approximately 40% of the $80 billion invested in Canadian private real estate funds they're being blocked from withholding their capital. And the reason for this is there's been a huge downturn in Canadian real estate. Anybody that's looking at the markets, they realize that price of homes are not as high they used to be.
Price of doors. Though I always couch this because people say homes. What they really mean is anything that has a door on it, condos included.
That's a home.
Yeah, but like that's really dragging single family dwellings down, multifamily dwellings down. It's the condo market that's really bleeding, and the pre-con market that's really bleeding.
Nah, there's houses that are taking
some. Yeah.
In some cases, I don't know the specifics, but I've seen some. I forget who the fuck Table Sol or something reporting. Maybe I don't know who the fuck it was.
Yeah,
but some like 30-40% down from the all-time high.
Yeah,
that's incredibly low. And so these real estate funds, they're blocking people from taking out their capital, and they want to stop any further losses in real estate because, keeping it in there is one way to stop the bleeding, at least temporarily. And just want to point out that this shit does not happen in the Bitcoin world. Like, if you have your keys, you can do whatever the fuck you want with it. You want to hold on to it. You want to move it to any address. No questions that need answering. None of that crap. It's your Bitcoin. It's the way money should be. It is that fucking simple. So as just more of a heads up. Anybody out there that's invested in shit, be ready, because it's not your fucking money if you want to get access to it. It's somebody else's that they decided. So
the reason you can't, you can, these things are, I think, I don't want to say fine, obviously, after this story, but the reason they're popular is because the idea is that you can invest in real estate in a little bit more of a liquid fashion by buying like these trusts. The thing that people don't consider is that if there is significant divestment from the trusts, then what has to happen on the asset side, Len? They have to sell
down.
No, they have to sell property.
Yeah,
right?
and that goes down. That's what they're trying to achieve here, because they don't want people to.
They're trying to set the floor
and add more inventory to the market.
Exactly. Exactly. So, you're 100% right. And I think people don't realize that, especially retail. Retail looks at these things and is like, oh, this is great. I don't have enough money to buy a house, so I buy a REIT, or like this thing that God, what is it called? I forget. Some other service where you can buy like, $5 worth of a neighborhood or something in West Vancouver on your phone. It's like, what are we doing here? Are we that real estate speculation crazy that this is how we're spending our money? The answer is yes. A lot of our economy is based off of this.
Yeah. They dangle that carrot in front of us. Or you could put your money into an RRSP or a TFSA, and you get some tax advantages from doing so. That's the fucking carrot. But you never know what's going to happen in the end when it comes time, when shit hits the fan and you want to get your money and it's not there. It's not your money.
Yeah.
Oh well.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Yeah. So
sorry about your luck, buddy. Sorry about your
buy
luck.
Bitcoin. Guess one last story before we go to the Hamilton versus Brampton man. We have a homelessness story in Ontario. Apparently, homelessness went up 8% in 2025. We now have 85,000 homeless people in Ontario. I thought
that's
it'd be higher
insane,
than that.
man.
That's essentially a small town.
Yeah.
And of the 85,000 people that are homeless in Ontario, 20,000 are children and youth. And they say there's 2,000 encampments, homeless encampments throughout the province of Ontario. And estimates show that the number of homelessness is going to rise in Ontario to 177,000 by 2035. And that is not taking into consideration anything that could derail the economy. This is why I support sending money to Z-Man. He could do much better than what we could do over here. Fuck the homeless. He needs money. This is what we should do.
The homeless can't rebuild Ukraine, and they got a sense of that. Look, the homeless thing is bad on its face, but if you think just one step further, because this stuff happens on the margins, right? The margins, let's say there's, always one variable that's going to push people over the edge. They lose their job or something, right? Fine. When you start talking about losing your job, you're talking about economies weakening, and we've talked a lot about how the economy looks in a world that's going to start moving toward AI and outsourcing and this sort of stuff. This is not new. But now there's a bunch of other sort of, pins coming at the balloon that just weren't in the thought process before. They weren't in the calculation. One of them is addiction. Why? Because even if you keep your job, you may not be able to eat enough food to survive, or you don't feel like you're getting ahead, or you're having spousal issues or whatever, or you're on social media too much and you go that direction. Like, there's all sorts of different on the margin pins now coming for your life, your sort of lifestyle balloon that just weren't there before. And I expect to see, you said that number was low. I think that number is, that's about where I expect it to be, I guess. What's the population of Ontario? 10 million?
14?
14? Okay. So, you're still pretty low ratio wise.
16.
Yeah. So what is the number in like Manitoba? It's probably significantly higher as percentage of the overall population. I bet it's the same in Saskatchewan and maybe also in
BC is probably the highest, just because.
Yeah, it got to be per capita, right?
Yeah. I think it's just a lot to do. Not just how things are in terms politically, but the weather. Yeah. Being a homeless in BC, in certain parts of BC, it's I don't want to like
it's better.
That's I don't know how to frame it any. But yeah, fuck, imagine being in Manitoba or Saskatchewan and being homeless.
Forget it.
I wouldn't know how the fuck you get by in the winter.
Yeah.
But in Vancouver, who knows?
Yeah. I think this is going to really accelerate, I think. Right? Don't you think? Because government programs cost money. I know. Like everything is expensive now, whether you're trying to fix it or trying to avoid it. It's just too much money to bear.
So I think it's time to transfer over to
Let's do it.
And brought to you by
256 Heat. Do you want me to do it? I'll do it.
You go ahead, because not only that, you could bet on this too. Yeah, I don't recommend betting on this, but you
can bet. I put the link in the YouTube chat. So if you want to bet on, if you want to gamble on whether or not I get this right, you're free to. You DJing. You could gamble on the national championship game like a loser, or you can gamble on whether or not, I guess, if the crime was committed in Brampton or Hamilton. 256 Heat is running a minor right behind me here. And I think I told you my pilot light went out in my HVAC last week. Did I tell you this?
No.
Yeah, the pilot light went out in my HVAC last week or the week before, I forget. And I obviously have a little one at home, and we can't allow it to get too cold in the house. I think it got down to like 66 on the main floor. And I said to Kenzie, if we can't get an HVAC guy here today to replace the part, then I'll just bring the miner upstairs. And her eyes lit up. And immediately I said to myself, this sort of thing has value in a place like Canada because 1, you never know what's going to happen to your HVAC. 2, you never know how cold it's going to be. And 3, if you do have to bring it upstairs, you don't want your wife telling you how ugly it is. You don't have to worry about any of those things if you go to see Twan at 256 Heat. So send him an email. Tell him we sent you. You get a discount, 5%, I think. And he will help you fit a custom solution for your needs. There's no website shop page. You talk to Twan. He'll walk you through what you need, and you will be satisfied. Everyone who's bought these things has been satisfied, and I think you will be among them as well, Anon. If you haven't bought one yet, it's time.
All right, so we got a couple of stories here. You can play along at home if you wish. If not, fuck you. But either way, Joey, this is for you. Let's do it.
I gotta shut the comments off. Okay, here we go.
We got this man was arrested after 4 carjacking attempts in 1 hour. So a 24-year-old dude is facing charges after 4 alleged carjacking attempts in the span of 1 hour not too long ago. And they said that the robberies took place in the morning of this January day between 8 and 9 a.m. And it's alleged that each incident, the accused tried to steal the victim's vehicle by demanding the keys and threatening violence. And in one incident, the police say that the unidentified weapon was brandished. And the suspect was successful in stealing 1 vehicle, later recovered, and he was identified through surveillance footage. And he was arrested on an outstanding warrant for vehicle theft. He's now charged with 2 counts of robbery and blah, blah, blah. So that's the one guy. 4 carjackings in 1 hour. This guy,
and he got one car. He got one car.
But first,
can I know the victims? Like, do we have any stats on the person who gave the car up?
No, all I have is this guy's information. So that's
okay.
Number 1.
All right.
And then number 2, we have the police raised public awareness that 3 arrests were made in a major fraud investigation called Project Carbon Copy. And so last year in February, the police began a fraud investigation, and these guys were conducting fraud throughout Canada, and they traveled across the country depositing fraudulent checks into ATMs, and then other members immediately accessed the funds through a different ATM at a different part of the country and withdrew the money. And so They were basically stealing money from the bank. Approximately $500,000 in losses.
Wow.
These guys were. So they did an execution and they found $70,000 cash, bank documents, high-end clothing, cell phones, 2 vehicles, and 3 dudes were charged as a result. So there we go. We had the 3 guys that were going around submitting fake fraudulent checks into ATMs and depositing the money somewhere else, having somebody else deposit it across the country. And we have the guy that's carjacked 4 different cars in an hour, successfully getting one, which is the Hamilton, which is the Brampton man.
The reason I asked you about the victims' stats, do you know what it is? Can you venture to guess why I would ask you that?
No.
Okay, the reason because he went, the carjacker went 1 for 4, right?
1 for 4, yeah.
The reason is because I feel like the Brampton man, generally small in stature and very unintimidating. And so he's probably got some kind of shitty like weapon that he made or found somewhere. And I mean, we've all seen the videos of these guys like, haphazardly swinging the weapons they have around. They can't shoot guns. They can't really, they're not necessarily physically gifted. They're not great in terms of spatial awareness, as we've talked about in this segment many times over the years. So I would say that the carjacker, just because of the win percentage, is probably the Brampton man, and the coordinated check cashing thing is the Hamilton man.
Ooh, no, it's the opposite.
Wow.
So the Hamilton man. And so the Hamilton man was definitely the carjacker. And Cody Atkinson is the suspect that is being held by police. I don't have a picture. They didn't release anything.
I can see if I can find one.
So Cody Atkinson.
Yeah,
is the name. And this happened last year.
I see the story. Yeah.
So
Center Mall. Yeah, you don't want to go to Center Mall for sure.
And the other story, just for a heads up,
he was arrested for robbery, armed robbery, motor vehicle theft with violence, possession of property obtained by crime over $5,000, and a 4-time breach of probation for that little Sunday morning GTA rip. Nice.
And the other guys, 3 guys were charged: Jash Anbir Jabal of Brampton, Gurbir Jabal, 25 of Brampton, and Aryan Gupta, 23 of Brampton. All 3 were receiving fraud charges over $5,000, and they're going to be appearing in court next week.
Wow.
On Wednesday.
Nice. Can we zoom into that?
Did they allow that?
I don't know. They did during COVID. I don't know if they still do. My wife was watching like random Hamilton court cases during COVID.
Court TV, Hamilton Court TV. Yeah. Fuck, that would have been. I should have got that. Yeah. Where is that? Is that online? Is there archives of this? Because I could.
I don't know.
That would be a treasure trove for me to figure out fucking some of these stories. Because I'll be honest, sometimes it's hard to find it. I have to spend 20 minutes to find one good story.
Yeah.
If I could just do that, it would save me so much fucking time.
Yeah, you could do it. I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, that's it. Good night. God bless everyone. I guess maybe we could see you here on Wednesday if I get my act together and get someone. Maybe Mark wants to sit down for a bit, talk about some stuff. Otherwise, we'll see you next week, same time, same place. Till then, take care of yourselves.
Don't be a carjacker.